Husqvarna, a global leader in outdoor power equipment, known for its high performance, durable and innovative products, tested and proven by generations of professionals. Full after sales and service support whenever you need it. Contact Provar Distributors Limited, 223-9438 to find a dealer near you.
If you live with diabetes, your pancreas works overtime every single day. Between our rich foods and busy lives, chronic inflammation can sneak in, stressing the pancreas and raising the risk of complications. Over time, inflammation can damage these cells, making blood sugar harder to control.
Protecting your pancreas from inflammation is a smart way to support healthy blood sugar management.
Backed by science, Omega XL is a natural anti-inflammatory with over 30 free fatty acids, proven to help reduce inflammation at its source. Learn more online or ask your local pharmacist.
Oh gosh, this place hot and the AC in this car not working.
Check Ryan Air. Ryan Air is ranked among the best in TNT for auto air conditioning service. They specialize in repairing and servicing all makes and models of vehicles and heavy equipment. They also stock a wide range of parts. Give them a call at 640-5828 or visit them at number 41 Kane Farm Road, Tacarigua, or email ryanairac@gmail.com. For prompt and efficient service, look no further than Ryan Air.
Dust from the Saharan desert, over 6,000 kilometers away, travels across the Atlantic to our little island, filling the air we breathe with tiny dust particles that can trigger an inflammatory response when inhaled into the lungs.
Saharan dust travels far and triggers inflammation. Omega XL helps reduce it at the source. Support your body from within.
When you say TNT's construction boss, then there's only one company, Lacroix Construction Services Limited, specializing in general construction, industrial maintenance, manpower resources, transportation and lifting, and equipment rental, excavators, bulldozers, dump trucks, lighting systems, and everything for your project. We have affordable prices. Call now 267-0000 or 431-0012. Lacroix Construction Services Limited, TNT's construction boss.
Where does disease start? It often begins silently. No pain, no symptoms, just inflammation quietly damaging your body. Our choices: food, stress, pollution, all feed inflammation. Chronic inflammation is the root cause of many modern diseases.
You can't go back in time, but you can start addressing inflammation before it becomes disease.
Omega XL is a natural inflammation fighter clinically researched with over 30 fatty acids and no fishy aftertaste. Available Caribbean-wide at pharmacies and health food stores. Call 1-868-225-0410 for more information.
For all top quality and affordable hardware supplies, no one beats Midland Hardware, located number 97 Eastern Main Road, Arouca. Midland stocks the #1 brands in hand tools, garden tools, water tanks, power washers, generators, water pumps, kitchen and bathroom faucets, along with face basins and toilet sets, blocks, lumber, steel, sand, gravel, and topsoil. Also check out Midland for steel windows and assorted designs of metal curtain rods. Everything for home and business projects. Payments via links, credit cards, online payments, or cash on delivery. WhatsApp 327-7761 or call 646-2144. Open every day from 8 a.m. From foundation to finish, it's all at Midland. Thank you, Master Control, and we are back. Thank you indeed. And just a reminder, good folks, that Vitamin XL D3 provides the most natural and absorbable form of vitamin D, which promotes whole body health, which is crucial for cellular health, especially regarding the cells of the immune system. Every cell in your body needs vitamin D3 to function properly, so please pick up your bottle of Vitamin XL D3. Get it today. And I'm talking to you about it, and I am still recovering because I didn't take enough, or shouldn't say, I didn't take my vitamin D XL3, but I'm on track. Don't worry about it. So pleasant good evening again, and welcome to The Observer. First of all, the Honorable Sean Sobers, the Minister of Foreign and Local CARICOM Affairs, is going to be out. He was scheduled this evening, but he's also holding on as the acting Minister of Sports. So he's in Tobago, but he did assure us and promise that he will be here next Sunday on The Observer to, of course, have the interview and get the information out to you. So again, we do apologize for that. I do have on the phone right now a lady who's no stranger to The Observer. We've been speaking for quite some time and giving us an update. Voices in Blue, Miss Roxanne Paul. A pleasant good evening, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mickie K. and the wider listening public.
Well, a lot has happened. A High Court judge has ruled that Special Reserve Police, SRP, municipal police, and transit police officers can legally be members of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service Social and Welfare Association and have the right to vote in its elections. Justice Frank C. Prasad gave the ruling on July 15th. Well, that's good news for you and, of course, your team. And what's the next step? Because we still hear a lot of people talking about your team will have to pay costs of legal fees and all of that. Clear up first, please. I mean, what does this ruling mean and what does it set the tone for going forward?
Okay, Mr. Mickie K. Well, first I must say that the team has no legal costs to pay. Reason being, these are the things that Voices in Blue would have lobbied before, hence the reason it would have reached before the High Court. Because in elections past, the SRPs and municipals and transit police officers were voting, but they were voting illegally and unlawfully. Because had it not been for Voices in Blue putting this matter before the High Court, they would have not been able to legally vote until the 1st of July when the amended Articles of Association was filed. Because this was filed after the elections. The elections was on the 30th of June. Right. And an entire election was based on these amended Articles of Association that was never filed with the Registrar General and the Attorney General's office. So had it not been for Voices in Blue putting this matter before the High Court, this was not going to be filed until the 1st of July after the elections, and the elections would have then been invalid. So that's a win for Voices in Blue, one of the wins for Voices in Blue thus far. And we would have mediated through our attorneys on both sides, and what Voices in Blue wanted for a fair and lawful election has basically been agreed upon, and Voices in Blue has no cost to pay. In fact, the court actually ordered costs for our attorneys.
No, but this, of course, ruling, again, in your favor, and congratulations to you and your entire team. I mean, what does it do? I mean, setting this motion forward, what action can we expect from you and the team now moving forward?
Okay, well, there's still one matter to be determined before the court, and that is Mr. Anand Ramasa's eligibility to participate in the 2025 elections. However, that matter is supposed to be adjudicated on by the 26th of August, right? But in moving forward for the team and I, we have already set things in motion to continue campaigning for when an election date is set, because there are 10 divisions within the police service and we hadn't covered all, so we intend to cover them all, and sometimes as well to, if it's possible, make a tack back as well. So we're just going to go back on the campaign trail and campaign unheard, and we did set precedent in the TTPSSWA to ensure that now the SRPs and they can vote lawfully, and we never intended to sideline the SRPs. It was all about having them included lawfully. The next step is for the SRPs to know that they have gotten recognition. That is another step that the TTPSSWA has to deal with now. And we are thankful to the Honorable Prime Minister, Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa, on her decision to now absorb over 800 SRPs. And thank you to the minister in the ministry as well of Homeland Affairs. So that's a win for the SRPs. As to which 800 plus would be absorbed, we're still waiting to see.
Yeah, now the court also ordered that the association to temporarily stop collecting dues from the SRPs, the municipal police, and transit police officers. And also an explanation has to be given how many of them are members and how much money was collected from them, and the reason for doing so legally. That's something I know that you were fighting for there. Again, throughout this entire process, those of us who are, of course, on the outside looking in, is looking at the TTPS, a bit as to how is it that there seems to be a lack of transparency. A lot of information is not forthcoming. We're hearing talks and bits and pieces again of money that was collected, dues that were paid, and what have you. But yet still, how is it that it has not benefited those who have been putting out this money and who as well have been making the sacrifice within the organization?
Well, this is a major problem that Voices in Blue had, because I know for a fact when the ruling was handed down, the subscriptions and fees had been placed on a hold. The association did comply with that. But one of our concerns is that you are collecting the monies from the SRPs and the municipals and the transit, and you do not have recognition to represent them in a meaningful way. There was an article in the newspapers from the municipal yesterday stating that as well. Because if you don't have the recognition, you cannot bargain for better working conditions for these people. You cannot deal with promotions for the municipal and these type of things. And at the end of the day, well, we just have to roll with the punches.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, if you can't acknowledge, if you can't recognize them, then there's so much that anything you can do at all in their interest. This says a lot, but the question has to be asked. I mean, why such an oppressive sort of attitude? I mean, why was this treatment meted out to these officers in these different categories, when in fact all hands are needed on deck to be part of the whole crime fighting initiative? I mean, who was it benefiting them to have this sort of oppressive rule?
Well, I know for a fact, I don't know how many municipal officers know, but they have their own association. Because remember, we had Mr. Campbell on the show already.
Yes.
So these are the people that can lobby for the municipal police. And this is what the point we were trying to get across with Voices in Blue. The Municipal Corporation Act is what the Municipal Police Association is formed under. The TTPSSWA is not formed and structured under the Municipal Corporations Act. And I really don't know how to express this again. And maybe with Voices in Blue campaigning all the time, maybe the municipals will understand what it is to gain recognition, because this is the only way they can be getting raise in pay and these type of things, and it's for their benefit that they go home to their association. We are not excluding anyone in any way. And the SRPs, okay, they are under the TTPS, yes, and again, we were saying that the persons to lobby for the SRPs, as was just shown clearly, is the Commissioner of Police and the Minister. Had the Minister not taken this issue about absorbing the SRPs to the Honorable Prime Minister, it could not have been done. So this is where the SRP Act Section 6 is clear. The Commissioner and the Minister are the people to lobby for the SRPs until recognition is gained for them.
All right, so moving forward, as you said, you're going to continue to campaign. You're going to continue highlighting the issues and getting the information out.
Yes, that's what we are going to do moving forward, and we hope that in getting the information out, people understand their rights, understand what can be done for them and what cannot be done, and we hope to bring a better association. We hope that whenever the next election is carded for, that people are aware and they vote wisely, and they know that Voices in Blue is there for transparency and to act on behalf of all members.
All right. You did, of course, highlight to me, that there's a new sort of project with liaison officers from police stations, different communities.
Yes. In the different station districts, there's community liaison officers now. And I would have been handed that mantle last week. And there are a lot of issues within the communities that I believe that the police can assist with. It's not on a criminal nature, and it's nothing to do with upholding the law, but it's all about bridging gaps between the community and the police, and also gaining the trust in the police with the community. And this is a very good initiative as far as I believe. And there's other ways that the police can also assist the community. And with this portfolio, I can see that it would assist in building different communities and also in regaining the trust that the civilians have in the police.
All right. I want to thank you so much for taking time out to link with us this evening. Always a pleasure, and keep us updated as things progress. Thank you so much.
Same here, Mr. Mikey K. Thank you very much.
Folks, do forgive me. It's sort of it's dusty, so do forgive me, and I am, of course, making the best of it. Take a short break. We'll be right back.
Is high blood sugar the root cause of diabetes? Most people think high blood sugar is the problem. The truth, it's inflammation. Insulin resistance is the root cause of diabetes. Reducing that inflammation is key. Omega XL is a natural option. Not fish oil, but a patented green-lipped muscle extractor with over 30 fatty acids, including EPA and DHA. Clinically studied, backed by over 30 years of research. Stay tuned.
Omega XL. Power your health.
When you say TNT's construction boss, then there's only one company, Lacroix Construction Services Limited, specializing in general construction, industrial maintenance, manpower resources, transportation and lifting, and equipment rental, excavators, bulldozers, dump trucks, lighting systems, and everything for your project. We have affordable prices. Call now 267-0000 or 431-0012. Lacroix Construction Services Limited, TNT's construction boss.
Where does disease start? It often begins silently. No pain, no symptoms, just inflammation quietly damaging your body. Our choices: food, stress, pollution, all feed inflammation. Chronic inflammation is the root cause of many modern diseases.
You can't go back in time, but you can start addressing inflammation before it becomes disease.
Omega XL is a natural inflammation fighter clinically researched with over 30 fatty acids and no fishy aftertaste. Available Caribbean-wide at pharmacies and health food stores. Call 1-868-225-0410 for more information.
For all top quality and affordable hardware supplies, no one beats Mitlin Hardware, located number 97 Eastern Main Road, Arouca. Mitlin stocks the #1 brands in hand tools, garden tools, water tanks, power washers, generators, water pumps, kitchen and bathroom faucets, along with face basins and toilet sets, blocks, lumber, steel, sand, gravel and topsoil, Also check out Midland for steel windows and assorted designs of metal curtain rods. Everything for home and business projects. Payments via links, credit cards, online payments, or cash on delivery. WhatsApp 327-7761 or call 646-2144. Open every day from 8 a.m. From foundation to finish, it's all at Midland.
Is high blood sugar the root cause of diabetes? Most people think high blood sugar is the problem. The truth, it's inflammation. Insulin resistance is the root cause of diabetes. Reducing that inflammation is key. Omega XL is a natural option. Not fish oil, but a patented green-lipped muscle extractor with over 30 fatty acids, including EPA and DHA. Clinically studied, backed by over 30 years of research. Stay tuned.
Omega XL. Power your health.
Husqvarna, a global leader in outdoor power equipment, known for its high performance, durable and innovative products, tested and proven by generations of professionals. Full after-sales and service support whenever you need it. Contact Provar Distributors Limited, 223-9438 to find a dealer near you.
If you live with diabetes, your pancreas works overtime every single day. Between our rich foods and busy lives, chronic inflammation can sneak in, stressing the pancreas and raising the risk of complications. Over time, inflammation can damage these cells, making blood sugar harder to control.
Protecting your pancreas from inflammation is a smart way to support healthy blood sugar management.
Backed by science, Omega XL is a natural anti-inflammatory with over 30 free fatty acids, proven to help reduce inflammation at its source. Learn more online or ask your local pharmacist.
Oh gosh, this place hot and the AC in this car not working.
Check Ryan Air. Ryan Air is ranked among the best in TNT for auto air conditioning service. They specialize in repairing and servicing all makes and models of vehicles and heavy equipment. They also stock a wide range of parts. Give them a call at 640-5828 or visit them at number 41 Kane Farm Road, Tacarigua, or email ryanairac@gmail.com. For prompt and efficient service, look no further than Ryan Air.
Your heart does so much for your body, your life, your loved ones. But modern stress, diet, and lifestyle can tip the balance, especially with every passing day. Heart XL delivers high-potency omega-7 palmitoleic acid from sustainable pollock oil to elevate HDL and support a healthy metabolism.
Inflammation and low HDL put your heart at risk. Heart XL's omega-7 helps reduce C-reactive protein and support healthy HDL, keeping your heart strong.
Heart XL, nourish your heart, sustain your life.
When you say TNT's construction boss, then there's only one company, Lacroix Construction Services Limited, specializing in general construction, industrial maintenance, manpower resources, transportation and lifting, and equipment rental, excavators, bulldozers, dump trucks, lighting systems, and everything for your project. We have affordable prices. Call now 267-0000 or 431-0012. Lacroix Construction Services Limited, TNT's construction boss.
Where does disease start? It often begins silently. No pain, no symptoms, just inflammation quietly damaging your body. Our choices: food, stress, pollution, all feed inflammation. Chronic inflammation is the root cause of many modern diseases.
You can't go back in time, but you can start addressing inflammation before it becomes disease.
Omega XL is a natural inflammation fighter clinically researched with over 30 fatty acids and no fishy aftertaste. Available Caribbean-wide at pharmacies and health food stores. Call 1-868-225-0410 for more info.
Thank you, Master Control. Appreciate that. We are back, folks. Again, I do apologize. A little bit coming through a little something here, but it's all good. I have my Probiotic XL and my Omega XL, so I'm there. So let me say a pleasant good evening to a man who is no stranger to the Observer, always here to give us that legal insight. Let me say a special good evening to Kyle, Attorney at Law Kyle Taklaxing. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mikey. Good evening to all the listeners and viewers.
Always good to have you on. Thank you so much for taking time out to link with us. You know, most of the nation woke up Friday morning hearing about this SOE, then of course having to wait for the TTPS senior officials, Commissioner of Police, to tell us more about it. Yeah, the whole, legal particulars as far as if there was a curfew or not, and that was running through the minds of people. But just reading out a little part of the statement here by the Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessar, SC Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. She said, "My government came into office on the promise that we would address the crime situation in Trinidad and Tobago as a matter of priority, and that we would do everything necessary to ensure that citizens felt safe in their homes, workplaces, schools, and places of worship." She said she received an intelligence report from the Commissioner of Police and immediately directed her Attorney General to take the requisite steps to advise Her Excellency, the President, to declare that a state of emergency existed in Trinidad and Tobago. Very powerful. She went on to say that she will not stand idly by for years or months or weeks or even days while a minority of illegally armed individuals act in concert to intimidate the people of Trinidad and Tobago. What say you when you hear others weighing on it and saying that, this should have been the last resort, this isn't going to do anything, this is not going to help the situation, this is not going to put a dent in crime? What say you?
Well, absolutely disagree with those sentiments. First of all, a state of emergency has to satisfy certain constitutional conditions. And it's my view that those conditions are satisfied under the Constitution. Essentially, a state of emergency, well, you could have it for disasters and that sort of thing, but in the context of how it has been invoked in this scenario, it deals with a specific threat by specific individuals who are causing essentially mayhem in our country. Now, when one looks at the police report or the police statement recently, that statement clearly specified that the police received intelligence which showed that certain persons were going to be targeted, and that was emanating from a certain place. I believe it was a prison, etc., right? And therefore, what you had was a specific intelligence gathering and report by the police service who came and made a recommendation to the government. Look, in order to deal with this threat, we need a state of emergency. And what does a state of emergency do? Essentially, in this circumstance, it gives them enhanced search powers, enhanced detention powers, and enhanced seizure powers, so that it can go in, use its enhanced powers, and treat with a specific threat. Yes, of course, it could be used to generally deal with crime, but states of emergency generally have to deal with that type of public risk or public threat by these individuals. Now, could you imagine if the police service tells you, as a Prime Minister and an Attorney General, Madam, Sir, we have intelligence which shows that top brass in the police service may be targeted, judicial officers may be targeted, and other officials in the government, let's say, are being targeted. If such plans are carried out and executed, that brings the state itself into anarchy, disorganization, and the inability to protect the citizens of this country generally. And therefore, I don't know what else could be a greater justification for a state of emergency than intelligence like that. Now, that is to be compared with, previous states of emergency, in particular the last one, where they just said, well, there were some gang reprisals, etc., and this and that. Now, yes, that may very well justify a state of emergency. But in this case, where you had specific intelligence saying that there were plots against judicial officers, plots against policemen, senior policemen, and if those plots were carried to its natural conclusion, it could lead to a crumbling of the judicial and enforcement architecture for our country, then that is the par excellence scenario for the invocation of a state of emergency. And it is to the credit of the Prime Minister and the Attorney General that they were able to take that intelligence and make a tough decision, because as we all know, a state of emergency is an unpopular decision. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants the inconvenience. Nobody wants the harassment. Nobody wants police with too much powers that they could abuse. Nobody wants the potential that they could be arrested and detained for prolonged periods, 7 days and then 30 days, etc. Nobody wants that. And it's an unpopular decision, but you have to give the Prime Minister and the Attorney General credit. They have taken an unpopular decision, but they have taken it for the benefit of the country. And I have to say that I think the most of the population will understand why they had to take it when in the face of such information.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the TTP has stated that the foremost objective of the SOE is to empower law enforcement agencies to initiate rapid containment actions, enhance interagency coordination, and deploy additional resources with the necessary authority to neutralize the threat. And again, there are those who will weigh in and say, listen, if all of these things were being done to begin with, then, you know, a state of emergency is something that one doesn't have to call upon. You have those who are weighing in, whose background, maybe that of, you know, law enforcement, who are saying, listen, this is not going to get to the heart or the core of the issue, and when it's all said and done and it's lifted, the criminals are going to be able to, you know, proceed or with whatever it is that they do to terrorize the people of this country.
Well, that's a shocking statement, and that person may very well be mixing up the last state of emergency with the current one. The last state of emergency that was called under the PNM administration came after 10 years of being in office, of having all the resources of state and finance to combat crime, and yet at the end of that tenure, a state of emergency was still required to combat essentially gang-related killings and reprisals, etc. It means you had 10 years and you could not get it under control. Contrast that with what is taking place today. You have the police coming to you saying, we have gathered intel, we have specific intelligence that at this point in time, judicial officers and top policemen are going to be targeted and potentially harmed. We need a state of emergency because we need enhanced powers to go and do searches, do some detentions, and quell the threat. Please give us those powers for a limited period of time. It is chalk and cheese, and you have to be careful of these experts coming to conflate and confuse people simply because they project themselves as security experts. We as the population have to apply common sense to the situation. You have a what do you want the Prime Minister and the Attorney General to do? Let's think about it. Should they take this report from the police, hire an army of police of their own and go and do their own investigations and determine if it's true or not? Obviously not. If the police bring to you a statement and say, this is what we need, this is because of this, all you have to do is assess whether or not what they're telling you is enough to justify a state of emergency under the law, under the Constitution, and the Attorney General is absolutely right. It causes that level of threat, that level of harm to public safety, that you require a state of emergency and you require these powers to do it. And let's look at it. Under the last state of emergency, there were restrictions on speech. There were restrictions on certain gatherings, etc. Under the current one, there's no such restriction, right? There's no public order. I had to bring a constitutional motion in January, to strike out that from the previous set of regulations. So, and the state conceded. And in this one, the government has not tried to introduce anything like that. And that is because they have tailored their regulations to meet a specific threat. That specific threat is the intelligence that could harm senior policemen, senior judicial officers, other governmental agents, which could bring down the architecture of our country and cause harm to everybody. If the police is in a disarray, that is a risk, that is a safety risk to the entire country. And therefore, the prerequisites are satisfied. The Prime Minister and the Attorney General acted quite properly, quite lawfully, and quite constitutionally. They have given the police the powers that they need to quell the threat, and I am sure they're going to keep it under review. And you have a structured way. You have 15 days, and you have 3 months, and you have 6 months. So they will keep it under review to ensure that the police are not abusing their power and not simply asking for these powers when it's not required. As far as I have seen, it appears that progress has been happening, and I think that the population should give support for this state of emergency and not be too disenchanted. It's not I don't think it's being deployed as a general crime fighting strategy at all. It comes in the face of specific intelligence, and this is what we need to quell that as an emergency, and then we could return to our normal methods.
If I'm understanding correctly, what you're saying is that, this SOE is about basically dealing with identified key figures. I mean, basically, there is a target, there is core information that points to certain individuals who are involved in these criminal activities, and this is where the government wants to go at. And by calling this SOE, they then, of course, will be able to neutralize this threat, compared to having a SOE that, the citizens in the dark, even the people who are asking for it in the dark, and it's rather broad by just saying, listen, there's gangs and that's it. Am I understanding what you're saying is that...
And that is it. That is exactly it. This isn't some broad measure that is being deployed by the government to fight crime. It's absolutely not. Right? This is actually a specifically targeted state of emergency to deal with a specific threat coming from the request of the police service, who say they need it at this point in time, and we keep it under review. So yes, in the past, the police may have said they need it, but this is an entirely different scenario, and I think the justification is there, and I really think the population should assist and support this. Of course, you could have your views, nothing is wrong with that, and you could dissent. I'm not saying in any way that you shouldn't dissent, but I think people have to understand that certain information has come to the police, they've brought it to the government, and they've told the government, we need these measures to deal with this at this point in time. And the government has said, okay, you are the police, you've got this intelligence, we are in no position to go and question and investigate your intelligence, we don't have those powers, and therefore we for now have to accept that intelligence, but keep you under monitor to make sure you're not abusing your power, and I think that's a reasonable approach.
Now, one has to ask the question as well, and what's expected from the citizens is that once this has been neutralized and the threat itself has been taken out, there's still some questions that remain as to, how is it that they were able, according to what's said here in this report, in this media release, that the intelligence has confirmed the emergence of a coordinated and highly dangerous criminal network operating from within TNT's correctional facilities. Now, citizens are saying, listen, once you neutralize this threat, once you take out whatever it is that is going to be a threat to us as citizens, senior officials, politicians, and what have you, shouldn't something be done now to ensure that this does not become a recurring factor, especially in these correctional facilities?
Absolutely, absolutely. But, that certainly could not have been achieved since April 20th to now. And so faced with the threat, the specific threat and intelligence, the government couldn't say, well, let's ignore the state of emergency. Let's ignore your request, police. Let us go ahead and enhance our correctional facilities, bring in the cell phone jammers, other measures in place to ensure that these things don't fester in a prison or in a correctional facility, and then hopefully that treats with the threat. No, because you have an urgent issue now. By that time, you get that legislation in place, you get those measures in place, you procure the equipment, etc., that you need to prevent a prison from being a breeding ground for criminality.
Yeah.
And by that time, what would have happened? You may have lost judicial officers, you may have lost senior police officers. The entire country would have been in pandemonium if those risks that the police have identified had borne fruit. And therefore, the government had faced with the alternatives. Let us take the long approach and ignore the state of emergency, or let us give this limited power for a limited period of time. Let us quell the specific threat, but at the same time, treat with the long-term goals in order to deal with the long-term problem. Then I think that's the more reasonable approach, and that's good governance.
Yeah, and I want people to have a better understanding, and I'm glad, as I say, it's always good to have you on here to give us the legal parameters of how or where people can operate as far as the law and what have you. Because again, you have those who are saying that, listen, when you make this pronouncement openly about a state of emergency, it sort of gives an alarm to the criminal elements who would then be able to, pull back on their operations and wait until it's lifted and what have you. And you should just carry it out in a covert kind of operation where nobody, but then again, can you carry out such an operation without having these legal powers?
Well, a threat assessment must have been done at the time the police made the request. And the police would have obviously felt that, look, the powers that are open to us now, let's say we need to search somebody, we have to gather evidence, we have to go get a warrant, we have to do this, we have to do that. And those things are lawful and they're there for a reason, it's there to protect rights. But the police must have felt that, look, on this occasion, we need to curtail some constitutional rights because the threat and the risk is imminent, and we need the powers, the enhanced powers of search and detention and seizure to go in, gather evidence, and to detain and remove persons who may have, already plotted or been at the verge of carrying out their nefarious plans. And if that is required, and that is well recognized throughout the world, that sometimes you need to abridge or to infringe some constitutional rights in order to protect national safety. I mean, terrorism is the biggest example that people have to face, but this is a form of terrorism where people are planning to inflict terror on the population by carrying out a systematic and coordinated plan to target judicial officers and senior police officers, senior top brass. So that scenario clearly justifies the position and clearly justifies a state of emergency. Now, if that threat is not quelled, let's say within a reasonable time, despite the enhanced powers, then a more important question will be asked, well, should we give the police more time and more powers, or less powers but more time, or whatever formula you want for the state of emergency to continue? And I think that might be a harder question or a harder issue to justify in the future. But as for now, the Prime Minister and the Attorney General, I think, must be commended and praised for taking the unpopular decision, faced with the intelligence, knowing that they would face criticism, but nevertheless trusting the police service and the intelligence in order to prevent serious and violent harm, which could lead to anarchy in our society. I am for it at this point in time, and I totally agree with the decision.
And I think we're getting a better understanding here, for people to understand that this is not something that the Prime Minister and the security forces are just going to get up one morning and just have this in their head and say, we're going to do this. So when you hear people weighing on it and talking about it with such scrutiny, especially making it something political, to gain political mileage, saying it's a waste of time, it is something that the administration has to do because they have no plans, they have no ideas what they're doing. I mean, this is something that is properly vetted, properly assessed, properly laid out, and of course, again, those individuals, key individuals, those key figures are targeted. So when you hear people weighing on it, perhaps for their own political agenda, and not taking in consideration the legal framework. And again, some who are even making these comments are attorneys at law who should know better, but yet seem to be rather misleading.
Well, let those attorneys at law file challenges in court, and I'm sure they will be shut down. Because this in no way, by any statement made either by the Prime Minister or the police service or anyone else on the government, suggests that this is the first plan in a general crime-fighting plan by the United National Congress. Absolute rubbish. No one has said that. This is a response to information which the police have received and a request that the police has made. As a public decision maker, so put it like this, as a public decision maker on national security issues, doesn't the police service deserve perhaps the most prominent voice? Of course they do. So you're sitting in a room, the Commissioner of Police says, we have intel, we need these powers, we are recommending a state of emergency. The Prime Minister and the Attorney General say, okay, we've looked at what you say you have, it justifies under the Constitution the calling of an SOE, we're going to call it. We have 15 days, we'll go to Parliament, we'll have the reasons, and we'll determine if it needs to be continued for a 3-month period. And that's how you go, or you could end it before. But this is a response to a specific situation which the police service has uncovered. And therefore, there is no mixing of narratives. This is not something to say, oh, well, this was a crime-fighting plan, or, oh, this is your general approach. Absolutely not, and that is conflating the issues. This is a legal issue, and in fact, I would go so far as to say that the Attorney General and the Prime Minister was somewhat bound to do this based on the information. Because could you imagine if it came out, let's take it in reverse, could you imagine if it came out that judicial officers and police officers were targeted and successfully assassinated? And then it came to light, well, the police brought the information to the Prime Minister and Attorney General and asked for a state of emergency to intercept it. And they said no. Could you imagine the fallout? Could you imagine the backlash then? Could you imagine what people would think about that? Obviously, that narrative that people are trying to spread is wrong. The Prime Minister and the Attorney General have acted respectfully, and respectfully, I think they've acted quite properly and appropriately and legally, and now we just have to monitor it.
And you're right. I mean, for those who are weighing in on it and somewhat misleading the people of the country, you have to understand that this is something that takes a lot of vetting. It is something that takes a lot of assessment. And this is something that just simply doesn't just, it's not a knee-jerk reaction. A lot goes into making this decision.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, you did, of course, earlier, you spoke about the whole CPEP issue and the legal aspect of it as far as the contracts and what have you. Now, I want to ask you before you go, this monumental, according to what was written by Ken Ali and what has been confirmed by the authorities, this monumental $150 million a year URP fraud, which, exposed many people in this racket, from PNM activists, broadcasters, UE students in Jamaica and Barbados and what have you. Now, a file like this is presented. Give us an idea, because, the citizens are looking on and saying, my gosh, we're hearing about these things. Every Monday morning it's coming out. But what does the government do? Do they have to take the file to the TTPS, who then has to consult with the DPP? Or how does this go about?
Well, the government has several options. It could have an inquiry, an investigation, an audit to collate the information in an intelligible way, because sometimes you just drop a file on the police service desk. You say, look, you have these allegations, go and investigate. It would take longer than necessary. So the government can get an audit done. Let's get the information in place, line up the receipts, line up the contracts, line up the individuals, line up the information that you know about the individuals, find out if there were ghost people, see if there were reports of works actually being done, or is it just a salary being collected. Line it up, then present it to the police. The only charging authority, or the only authority in our country as it stands that can bring criminal charges is the DPP, well, the police service, and in some circumstances the DPP can discontinue. So it's really the responsibility of the DPP and the police to bring those criminal charges. So you have to go there. But that doesn't mean that the government can't do anything. The government has an array of powers. It can have a commission inquiry if it wants to. It depends on how far it goes. But whatever it does, first of all, corruption is a cancer. And therefore, where you have cancer, you have to cut it out. And therefore, if that level of corruption is existing, then we must find the cancer, we must expose it, and we must cut it out. And whatever means we need to get about doing it, it is public money. That is money that could be spent in much more fruitful and more, public, for a better public good, essentially. Monies are precious resources right now, and we need it in more critical areas. We don't need to be wasting money on ghost gangs and ghost ERP people, etc. So I would urge the government, certainly, let us do our own investigation, because you can have a civil and administrative investigation. Let us get an audit done. Let us get the information collated, and let us, as fast as possible, take that information to the police so the fraud squad could intervene and charge and prosecute those individuals. Let them have their day in court.
Closing comments, go right ahead.
People just have to understand that under a state of emergency, yes, your rights are abridged somewhat. Yes, you have some inconvenience, but remember, it is for the greater good. This state of emergency has been called for a specific purpose, as identified by specific police intelligence, that there are threats to judicial officers, threats to senior police officers, and the police have said, according to their statement, they require the enhanced investigative and search and detention powers in order to treat with it. The Prime Minister and the Attorney General have acted quite properly. They've acted on the intelligence, they've acted on the trust of the police service, and I want to commend them for taking an unpopular decision for perhaps the benefit of society.
Thank you so much. Again, it's always a pleasure to have you on.
All right, take care.
Have a good one.
Good chat. Bye-bye.
There you go, folks. Attorney at law Kyle Taklak Singh right here on The Observer. And I think that really cleared the air for a lot of people. I mean, this is not something that is just a knee-jerk reaction and you call a state of emergency. An assessment has to be done, a very thorough assessment as well. Things have to be vetted. There has to be consultation. You have to look at the legal perimeters. What are you doing? What is the target? What is the objective? My thing, however, is that if it is that we have prisons and correctional facilities that are breeding grounds for people who are masterminding these things, then there needs to be something to be implemented to deal with that. Now, many times prison officers get a raw deal, especially when it is that they're caught with contraband. You don't see that happening with the TTPS. Police officers, they themselves, they're rogue officers, they are not spotlighted as we do when we see these prison officers. It's a very stressful job. Many of them are under threat. You know, go and get this for me, otherwise we know where your family living and all of that. But that's a whole different thing, and we'll do a show on that as well. But the fact of the matter here still remains that there are people who are out there sort of ringing the alarm and trying to get their own political mileage off of something that is of a serious nature. If it is that this thing had come about, according to the attorney at law that just spoke, and no one took it seriously, what would we say after? That the information came forward to the Prime Minister, to the Attorney General, and they turned a blind eye to it, and what? We'll have to be setting someone's funeral, having a state funeral for some high official? Hey, they had to do what they had to do based on consultation, on assessment, on vetting, looking at the logistics and saying, listen, this is what we need to do to neutralize this problem. And that's exactly what they did. So when you hear people weighing in and you don't have the proper information, hey, that's what's going to happen. So again, that's what we do here on The Observer. We connect the dots so you can have a better understanding of many of these top serious issues when dealing with current affairs. Short break. When we come back, former Minister of Energy Kevin Ramnarine is joining us right here on The Observer. We'll be right back.
Your heart does so much for your body, your life, your loved ones. But modern stress, diet, and lifestyle can tip the balance, especially with every passing day. Heart XL delivers high-potency omega-7 palmitoleic acid from sustainable pollock oil to elevate HDL and support a healthy metabolism.
Inflammation and low HDL put your heart at risk. Heart XL's omega-7 helps reduce C-reactive protein and support healthy HDL, keeping your heart strong.
Heart XL, nourish your heart, sustain your life.
When you say TNT's construction boss, then there's only one company, Lacroix Construction Services Limited, specializing in general construction, industrial maintenance, manpower resources, transportation and lifting, and equipment rental, excavators, bulldozers, dump trucks, lighting systems, and everything for your project. We have affordable prices. Call now 267-0000 or 431-0012. Lacroix Construction Services Limited, TNT's construction boss.
Where does disease start? It often begins silently. No pain, no symptoms, just inflammation quietly damaging your body. Our choices: food, stress, pollution, all feed inflammation. Chronic inflammation is the root cause of many modern diseases.
You can't go back in time, but you can start addressing inflammation before it becomes disease.
Omega XL is a natural inflammation fighter clinically researched with over 30 fatty acids and no fishy aftertaste. Available Caribbean-wide at pharmacies and health food stores. Call 1-868-225-0410 for more information.
For all top quality and affordable hardware supplies, no one beats Midland Hardware, located number 97 Eastern Main Road, Arouca. Midland stocks the #1 brands in hand tools, garden tools, water tanks, power washers, generators, water pumps, kitchen and bathroom faucets, along with face basins and toilet sets, blocks, lumber, steel, sand, gravel, and topsoil. Also check out Midland for steel windows and assorted designs of metal curtain rods. Everything for home and business projects. Payments via links, credit cards, online payments, or cash on delivery. WhatsApp 327-7761 or call 646-2144. Open every day from 8 a.m. From foundation to finish, it's all at Midland.
Is high blood sugar the root cause of diabetes? Most people think high blood sugar is the problem. The truth, it's inflammation. Insulin resistance is the root cause of diabetes. Reducing that inflammation is key. Omega XL is a natural option. Not fish oil, but a patented green-lipped muscle extractor with over 30 fatty acids. including EPA and DHA. Clinically studied, backed by over 30 years of research. Stay tuned.
Omega XL. Power your health.
Husqvarna, a global leader in outdoor power equipment, known for its high performance, durable and innovative products, tested and proven by generations of professionals. Full after sales and service support whenever you need it. Contact Provar Distributors Limited, 223-9438 to find a dealer near you.
If you live with diabetes, your pancreas works overtime every single day. Between our rich foods and busy lives, chronic inflammation can sneak in, stressing the pancreas and raising the risk of complications. Over time, inflammation can damage these cells, making blood sugar harder to control.
Protecting your pancreas from inflammation is a smart way to support healthy blood sugar management.
Backed by science, Omega XL is a natural anti-inflammatory with over 30 free fatty acids, proven to help reduce inflammation at its source. Learn more online or ask your local pharmacist.
Oh gosh, this place hot. And the AC in this car not working.
Check Ryan Air. Ryan Air is ranked among the best in TNT for auto air conditioning service. They specialize in repairing and servicing all makes and models of vehicles and heavy equipment. They also stock a wide range of parts. Give them a call at 640-5828 or visit them at number 41 Kane Farm Road, Tacarigua, or email ryanairac@gmail.com. For prompt and efficient service, look no further than Ryan Air.
Dust from the Saharan desert, over 6,000 kilometers away, travels across the Atlantic to our little island, filling the air we breathe with tiny dust particles that can trigger an inflammatory response when inhaled into the lungs.
Saharan dust travels far and triggers inflammation. Omega XL helps reduce it at the source. Support your body from within.
And we are back. Thank you, Master Control. Folks, don't forget Probiotic XL. Probiotic XL combines 3 innovative strategies to restore balance to your digestive system. Probiotic XL contains 11, that's right, 11 important probiotic strains, protective shield technology, and clearphage that all together make it one of the best probiotics on the market. Probiotic XL promotes digestive health and immunity by supporting growth of good bacteria and neutralizing harmful ones. So please, pick up your bottle of Probiotic XL today. And don't forget, for all the interviews, it's a lot easier now. You can check out our website. That's right, later on after the program, just theobservertt.com. That's theobservertt.com. And get all the interviews. Excuse me, even going back to weeks and months ago. And joining us at this time, a man who's no stranger. Let me say a pleasant good evening to former Energy Minister Kevin Ramnarai. Good evening to you, sir. Do forgive me. I am still a bit, Are you there? All right, let me see if I can get him. We're going to take a short break. Right back. Husqvarna, a global leader in outdoor power equipment, known for its high performance, durable and innovative products, tested and proven by generations of professionals. Full after sales and service support whenever you need it. Contact Provar Distributors Limited, 223-9438 to find a dealer near you.
Your heart does so much for your body, your life, your loved ones. But modern stress, diet, and lifestyle can tip the balance, especially with every passing day. Heart XL delivers high-potency omega-7 palmitoleic acid from sustainable pollock oil to elevate HDL and support a healthy metabolism.
Inflammation and low HDL put your heart at risk. Heart XL's omega-7 helps reduce C-reactive protein and support healthy HDL, keeping your heart strong.
Heart XL, nourish your heart, sustain your life.
When you say TNT's construction boss, then there's only one company, Lacroix Construction Services Limited, specializing in general construction, industrial maintenance, manpower resources, transportation and lifting, and equipment rental, excavators, bulldozers, dump trucks, lighting systems, and everything for your project. We have affordable prices. Call now 267-0000 or 431-0012. Lacroix Construction Services Limited, TNT's construction boss. Thank you, Master Controller. We are back. Let me start off by saying a pleasant good evening to former Energy Minister Kevin Ramnarine. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Are you hearing me loud and clear?
We are hearing you loud and clear, and you're hearing me as well?
Very good. Excellent.
Good. First of all, I guess congratulations is in order. Congratulations. You've been called to the bar.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, indeed. That has quite an experience, I know it's been for you.
Well, it's been 4 years, about roughly 4 years. Pursuing law is not an easy journey. It's a lot of it's basically one has to do a Bachelor of Laws degree, and then one has to get either LPC or a LEC, depending on whether you choose to go to Hewing or whether you choose to do the UK route. And then one has, other things that you have to do an internship and so on. So it's quite a journey. The legal profession in Trinidad is one of the most regulated professions that we have. So it's quite an effort, and I give thanks to God for giving me the strength and the resilience to reach that milestone. I was called to the bar on the 18th of July 2025 at the Hall of Justice with 51 other persons. I was one of 52. So, praise be to God, and all thanks to the God above. Thank you very much.
Great to hear, man. I always know that you've always been there pushing forward, going beyond whatever limitations they may try to put in front of you. So I can say...
the thing is, if you have to fully understand how any society operates, whether it's an ancient civilization or whether it is a modern society, you have to understand the rule of law. And, of course, we see right now we're in a state of emergency.
Right.
And there are that has legal underpinnings, and there are legal consequences and so on of a state of emergency. But the state of emergency arises because there are circumstances in the country which, in the judgment of the authorities, the people in government, the Prime Minister, and the cabinet and so on, the Commissioner of Police, the Attorney General, which in their judgment warrants a state of emergency. And I think that when you look at the experience of the Prime Minister, she's been in Parliament now for 31 years, I believe. She's been Prime Minister not once but twice. That is a feat which is something which is rare in the CARICOM. If you go through the CARICOM, that has only happened a few times. Michael Manley in Jamaica.
Yeah.
I think I could think about Patrick Manning in Trinidad. He came back after 6 years in the wilderness. 95 he was voted out, and he came back in 2001. So when you think about the experience of the Prime Minister, you think about the experience of the Attorney General, the Honorable John Jeremy, who's now been Attorney General on 3 occasions.
Yeah.
I think we are in good hands. I think these are people who have a very good understanding of the society, of the laws that underpin that society, and I think we are in good hands in terms of their decision making. If in their opinion a state of emergency was warranted, then by all means they have the legal tools at their disposal to implement a state of emergency. And that, of course, comes back to our topic today, of course, which we had discussed, the economy, right?
Yeah.
because one cannot divorce the criminal situation that we have, the crime situation we have in Trinidad and Tobago, and the state of the economy, which the People's Partnership inherited on the 28th of April 2025. And I think it was one of the main, if you go back to the campaign, and I don't think we've spoken, Mikey, since the campaign.
No, we haven't.
But if you go back to the campaign, and you really listen to all the platform speeches for both parties, and you listen to the, all the political noises and so on, everything that was being said, and you capture that and analyze it. What really stands out for me as the major issue which arose out of that campaign in the lead up to April 28, 2025, I think the biggest issue was the state of the economy and how that crime, of course, was a major issue too, but I think what really came out for me was the state of the economy, and not just the state of the economy, but how the state of the economy had impacted the day-to-day lives of the citizenry. And if a government is in office and that government cannot arrange the economic affairs of the country in such a manner to bring a degree of prosperity, a degree of economic comfort and so on, to create economic opportunity. If a government cannot do that, then that's an indictment on the government. Right. And I believe that what really came out on the 28th of April was the people of Trinidad and Tobago passing judgment on the PNM for many reasons, right? There was a multitude of reasons, but one of the things that I think was really weighing heavily on the minds of the electorate on that day, the 1 million odd persons who were eligible to vote, was how the economy had impacted their lives. There are things like the availability of forex. There were things like there are people living on wages that have become stagnated. A big one, I think, is the fact that we have no economic opportunity in Trinidad to create new jobs. And we were pushing out, at one end of the pipeline, we were pushing out every year thousands of graduates from the universities and from the other institutions of higher learning. And those young people were deeply frustrated by either not being able to get jobs or getting employment which was well below what they had studied for. So all these things came together for a sort of collective frustration, and that is one of the major reasons I think that the country did what it did on the 28th of April.
And now
that, of course, the situation is, as I said, an inherited situation.
Yeah, and that's what I want to get at. After all has been said and done, what sort of economy then has this administration inherited?
Well, we still have, we are the People's, I'm going to say the People's Partnership. The United National Congress and its partners and so on, coalition of interests, they have inherited a situation where oil production is I think it's at a 90-year low or 85-year low, right? Oil production, gas production is at a 20-something year low. So the oil production and the gas production are not where it should be. It's low. The second thing is that the prices of the commodities that we export are not terrible. They're not bad, but they're not good. Oil is somewhere in the region of $67 to $70 a barrel, which is not bad, but it's not great. Gas too, prices are not bad, but prices are not great. So a lot is riding on Dr. Rudal Munilal, because of course he is at the steering wheel of the most important sector of the economy. So he has communicated, 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, he spoke at a very important forum called the Society of Petroleum Engineers Technical technical forum on mature basins. And in that speech, he outlined his policy for going about increasing production. And he spoke about the role that Heritage Petroleum would play, and he spoke about the need to get investment and drilling going again in natural gas. And of course, those are things that you would recall, you know, those are criticisms leveled against the PNM for the previous 9.5 years, right? That drilling collapse, that investment in the energy sector had waned, and so on, and we paid a heavy price for it. So he's now the man who has to do the CPR, right? That's the emergency procedure. He has to resuscitate this energy sector and do it very quickly. And he's of course, again, we talked about the experience and the wisdom of the Prime Minister and the Attorney General. Of course, this is not Dr. Munila's first cabinet. This is his third cabinet. This is the third time he's a member of a cabinet. And he too has been in Parliament now for about 25 years.
Yeah.
So experienced gentleman who, you know, will understand the issues very quickly, and you know, and will get to work very quickly. So, but in terms of what we inherited as a country, this issue of the production is impacting the revenue of the country. This is the oil and gas production is impacting the revenue of the country, and it's impacting the foreign reserves of the country, and by extension, the availability of foreign exchange to the population. So it's not all doom and gloom. Gas production right now is about 2.4 to 2.5. I would say 2.5 billion cubic feet of gas per day. By way of comparison, when I left office in 2015, that was 3.8. That's a significant drop.
Yeah.
That's a drop of 1.3 billion cubic feet of gas per day. Oil production is, when I left office, it was 78,000 barrels per day. It's now about 52,000 barrels per day.
Wow.
So one of the ways to improve oil production, and I think that's going to be a huge task for Dr. Munila, is to get the investment flowing again in our land fields. When I say by our land fields, I mean our land oil fields in the deep south, and in Trinma, which is on the Gulf of Paria southwestern side of the country, Gulf of Paria, and on the east coast, there's been a discovery by EOG of something called Beryl. Getting that into production pretty quickly is going to be one of his major tasks. But it's not the country, and I believe that with the correct vision and with the correct people and so on, and with the correct political will, Mikey, because political will is a critical ingredient to the success of any country, right?
Right.
The other thing which I would fault the previous government on, right, is the previous government seemed to have developed an inability to listen to people. I don't know who they were listening to. I don't know if they were listening to anybody. But one of the criticisms of them, and in their reflections, as they go away and they reflect, because I don't think they've started to reflect yet, in their reflections, they may want to revisit that, you know, one of the criticisms was that they never listened to anybody. This government, I know, is going to be very different, because I was part of the previous incarnation in 2010 to 2015, and I know that Mrs. Prasad Bissasa's model of leadership is one where she listens to a broad range of views before she synthesizes and she crystallizes her decision. So I know that Dave Tanku, Minister of Finance, Honorable Dave Tanku, and I know that Dr. Munilal, I know they will listen to people. They will listen to all the stakeholders in the economy and in the energy sector, because the answers are there with the people of Trinidad and Tobago. One just has to listen to them and pick out sense from nonsense, of course, and filter what is good and what is bad, what is good from what is bad, and implement. So there is an enormous potential. And I say this relying on all my years in the energy sector. There is an enormous potential to resuscitate the production of crude oil on land in Trinidad and Tobago.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Amnarain. Have we, at the past administration, is it that we wasted too much time on?
Well, I'll tell you this, and I want to say
chasing something that wasn't there?
The past administration was very focused on natural gas.
Right.
And the reason for that is that natural gas is the glamorous side of the energy sector. Natural gas is where the multinational BPs and the Shells and the Woodsides of the world, that's where their interest was. And those companies are, they have their glass and steel buildings in Port of Spain around the Savannah, and that's the glamorous side. And nothing is wrong with that, because I, as Minister of Energy, I engage with those companies. They are very good companies, and they are very good stakeholders and investors in Trinidad and Tobago. But the past government didn't have the equivalent focus on the oil industry. And the oil industry is not the glamorous side. It's the deep south. It's a lot of local companies involved. Very, very, very important players to the success of what we are talking about, increasing oil production. A group of companies, I think there are about 25 to 30 of them, called the lease operator farm out companies, LOFOs we call them, lease operator farm out. And these are small family-owned oil companies that operate on land in South Trinidad. That program was introduced in 1989 under the NER. And that program, it's not perfect, but it has yielded, I think, great results to Trinidad and Tobago, because it allows for these small, nimble companies with a low cost structure, right? With low cost structures to go in and produce oil where a big company like a Heritage Petroleum and so on may have these high overheads, and it would be uneconomic for them. So I come now to this issue of the cost of production.
Right.
Because I think it is a critical issue. And I know that Dr. Munilal is aware of this issue. There are reserves of oil and natural gas in Trinidad which are uneconomic to produce for the large companies, for the BPs and for the Shells and for the Heritage Petroleum and so on. But it can be economic for small, nimble oil and gas companies with low cost structure. And the company which is showing the way in that regard is a company called Perenco, which is very much in the news. Perenco has been in the news quite a lot because they have been acquiring assets. Last year they acquired assets from BP.
Yeah.
And those assets are called CAFI, C-A-F-I. It's the acronym, which I wouldn't get into now. And they recently acquired what is called the Angostura area from Woodside. So very quietly, Perenco, which is a French company, they have become the third largest natural gas producer in Trinidad and Tobago. And I think by the end of this decade, they will be probably a larger company with more production of oil and gas. But what's the point? The point is that Perenco has a cost structure which is more lean. They have a lean cost structure. So what might be uneconomic? So let me just use simple language. The fruit which might make sense for BP and Shell and Heritage Petroleum and so on to pick might be economic for Perenco to pick, because they have a lower cost structure and they have been able to master this low cost philosophy. And the lease operator farmer community in the south, and I call them the LOFO community because that's what they are. There are several disparate companies, right? They also have that low cost structure. So I come back to the point that there is enormous potential to increase oil production in Trinidad and Tobago if we apply this low cost philosophy The second thing is that so that's the first thing. The second thing, and Dr. Munilal spoke about this at the Society of Petroleum Engineers Forum, is something called enhanced oil recovery. About 70 to 80% of all the oil that has ever been discovered in Trinidad and Tobago is still in the ground, you know. What has been produced in the last 15 years, or last 117 years, to be accurate, has been produced on the basis of what is called primary production. So primary production is when oil comes to the surface using its own energy, right? Meaning that it comes like you have punctured the reservoir with a drill bit, and it flows to the surface using the pressure which nature has given it in the reservoir. But over time, that pressure depletes, and you have 70 to 80% of the oil left behind. That is quite a significant amount of oil, amounting to billions of barrels of oil. That can be recovered, or about half of that could be recovered, applying technologies like what we call water flooding, steam flooding, carbon dioxide flooding, many different new techniques, and there are a range of new chemical treatments that you could use on these oil wells to bring them back to life. So that's the other thing. The third thing which was discussed at that Society of Petroleum Engineers Forum was the fiscal regime, which many companies believe just doesn't. The industry believes that there are parts of the fiscal regime that, if they were tweaked, could bring more oil into production. So, and then finally, of course, Dr. Munilal and the cabinet and the government will turn their attention to the role of Heritage Petroleum, which is really the company which will have to be at the center of this trust to increase oil production. But I believe we have to move very, very quickly, because the world is changing. And the electric car, if you think about it, Mikey, when I say we, the former Kamala Persad-Bissessar government of the People's Partnership introduced the first incentives, I think it was around 2014, for electric vehicles. And when that happened, we didn't realize how quickly the electric vehicles would take root in Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, have you seen them? They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? There's the Chinese. I don't want to call the names of specific brands. I don't want to be accused of advertising for any company. But we are seeing now the proliferation of electric vehicles in Trinidad and Tobago. And I can tell you, Trinidad is at the tip of the iceberg. There's a proliferation of electric vehicles in China, the proliferation of electric vehicles in Europe, right? So the electric vehicle, the EV is taking over the world. And that means that there's going to be less demand for gasoline. And there's going to be less demand for diesel. So the oil price, when you think about the oil price in a long run trajectory, not the oil price tomorrow or next month or next year, but if you think about the oil price in a long run trajectory, oil prices will begin to fall because of the proliferation of the electric vehicle. And that is why we need to get as much oil out of the ground as possible in Trinidad and Tobago in the next, I would say, 5 to 10 years. Because as the price falls, a lot of oil will become uneconomic and hence stranded. So increasing oil production is central to what this government has to achieve. And I just gave you some of the ideas that Dr. Munilal put forward at that forum in the Society of Petroleum Engineers Forum a few weeks ago. And then, of course, there's gas production, which, as you know, is the backbone of the economy.
Right.
We've had, under the previous government, the constant headlines. We had a spate of headlines about closure of plants. A number of plants in Point Lisas were closed under the previous government. That is a fact. The Train 1 died in 2018. I think it was. Train 1 was closed, never to be reopened. Of course, we know the NGC spent a significant amount of money on Train 1, only to to find out that it would never restart, right? So that of course is wasted money. And then of course the steel plant closed down in Point Lisas, and that caused a lot of people to lose jobs. Hundreds of people, could be thousands of people lost jobs. And then there's also the spin-off impact of the closure of these plants on the contracting community. And on top of that now, the plants which are operating at 70 to 80% of their capacity. So that is what was inherited on the 28th of April 2015 by this government.
Then I need to...
That's a problem which has to be stabilized, right-sided, and I know that I see the Prime Minister has met with Proman. I see that the Prime Minister has met with BP. I know that Dr. Muniral is meeting with all the companies, all the sector. And why is that important? Those are not just merely meetings. Those are meetings that still investor confidence, right? Because if people are confident that they have the support of the government of Trinidad and Tobago in placing their billions of pounds and their billions of US dollars in this economy, then they would, right? If the opportunities are couched in political stability and support from the government of the day, that is going to lend itself to investment. So I think that by the end of, by 2028, around there, we would see an improvement in the gas production. I think there's going to be a degree of stabilization. There's a very important project right now which is being implemented by BP called the SIP project. That's SIP is spelled CYPRE. And that project has had its first phase come into production earlier this year, and its second phase is currently being implemented. That is going to provide us with some stability of gas production in 2025 and 2026, but it's not going to take us back anywhere near to where we were in 2015. Now, interestingly, the SIP project is a project which has its genesis in those fiscal incentives of 2014, which were much condemned and criticized, and the PNM beat up on that for the last 9.5 years. But had it not, today 80% of BPTT's production can be traced back to those incentives from 2014. So had we not done what we did in 2014, we would have inherited. We inherited a bad situation on the 28th of April. We have inherited a far worse situation.
So you're saying basically
it's not all
doom and gloom, but at the same time,
it is fixable,
right?
And a critical part of the fixing is listening. I don't know if that is that is something which I don't think the previous government did enough.
I think we were simply being sold something. I mean, there's no need to hide it. The dragon gas. I mean, every household knew about it, but at the same time, I mean, the reality of that coming to light was never going to be. It was never going to be there. So now, what you're saying, based on what you're saying, there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
The previous government made dragon the centerpiece. I mean, they could deny it as much as they want to, but they did make it this great hope, and they made it the centerpiece of their energy policy. I mean, I don't think anybody will disagree with that statement. They made Dragon the centerpiece of their economic policy, and I think they also made Dragon the centerpiece of their foreign policy, right? And of course, we've had an election, and here we are today, and Venezuela continues to be a geopolitical issue with the United States. Its relationship with the U.S. is certainly not better today than it was a year ago. It has deteriorated. The coming of President Trump in January and the complete imposition of all these sanctions and so on. Remember, 2 or 3 weeks before the election, there was a revocation of 2 OFAC licenses that were granted to Trinidad and Tobago. Right? That came about 2.5 weeks before the election. And that was the revocation of the OFAC license for Dragon and the revocation of the OFAC license for the Mannequin Coquina project. So I have no problem if one day we source gas from Venezuela and it comes into Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, it must be done according to international rule of law and these things. But the situation is that Venezuela still is a geopolitical hot potato, right?
Yeah, it's one that, especially at this time, I mean, when you look at it, and you know, when you just said Mr. Trump has been there in January, you know, with so much that has been going on, one forgets it's only about 7 months. He's
actually marked now 6 months of his second term as president, and
wow.
He's, of course, you know, and we come now to this issue of the world economy. President Trump has done exactly what he said he would do. I don't think anybody should be surprised at anything he does. Everything he's done in the last 6 months, he said on the campaign trail he would do. He promised the tariffs, and the tariffs came. Yeah. And the trade war is here. And in some instances, he's been able to strike deals with certain major economies of the world, and in some cases, he has not been able to strike deals. But what these tariffs have done is that they have slowed down global trade. They have slowed down global manufacturing. They've slowed down the factories in China. They've impacted on the demand for energy. So the tariffs have this ripple effect. So if factories in China are producing less, it means they are consuming less energy. If there is less trade taking place in the world, it means that there are less ships moving up and down, because most of the world's trade takes place on the oceans, right? Yeah. And that means that the demand for oil and natural gas is under pressure. At the same time, while these tariffs are having this impact on global economic output, at the same time, oil production is on the rise. Oil production globally is on the rise, and there's a sort of golden age of oil production taking place in the Americas, where we live. And if you read all the articles, if you read all the Bloombergs and so on, Brazil, Argentina, Guyana, the United States, and Canada are now the dominant force in what is called non-OPEC oil production. And when you think about the fact that Guyana, a mere 5 years ago, let's say I want to be accurate, a mere 5.5 years ago was producing 0 barrels of oil per day. Today they're producing 650,000 barrels of oil per day. When you think about that, and you think about the fact that in a couple of years, they could be up to 1 million barrels of oil per day. And you think about Suriname, and I don't ever like to leave Suriname out of these talks. Suriname recently had an election. Suriname changed its government. And Suriname's transition from one government to the next has been smooth. And, you know, I was very happy to see how smooth that transition took place. And so Suriname is expected to have its first oil production in the year 2028 or thereabouts. And Suriname will become another major oil producer, producing probably close to 400,000 barrels of oil per day from their first couple of projects. Wow. So Suriname is going to, so there is this boom taking place in our back door, in our backyard with Guyana and Suriname, and further down the road, of course, Brazil. There's this boom taking place that is reshaping the energy landscape of the world. That's right. And one of the things that this government has advocated, one of the things that Mrs. Prasad's predecessor her second government has advocated this whole concept of the hub, 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 that Trinidad and Tobago, with all its human resources, we have some of the best and the brightest in the world here in oil and gas, so good that we export them now. We used to be an importer of talent in this country. You know. We used to have to bring in, there are more Trinidadians working outside in the world now than there are expats working in Trinidad. So Trinidad and Tobago, with its developed infrastructure of pipelines, 1,000 kilometers of gas pipeline, its LNG infrastructure, its refinery, and of course we didn't get time to talk about the refinery. Of course, I have a role there, and its human resource. Trinidad and Tobago is well positioned to be at the heart of this, at the center of this incredible boom that's taking place around us, right? So that is a vision which I think is something which has to be constantly built on, right? Because I think therein lies the future of Trinidad and Tobago. And coming to the refinery now.
Hold on, Kevin. We got to stick a pin in there. We have to do a part 2 because I still have Mr. Elder on hold. So I do have Mr. Elder on hold. So I have to bring you back for a part 2. But we're going good. So hopefully next Sunday as well, same time, we'll talk about the local refinery. And I also want to touch on the global outlook of this entire thing. All right?
Thank you very much, and always a pleasure.
Appreciate it. Okay. Thanks a lot. Quick break. We'll be right back.
Your heart does so much for your body, your life, your loved ones. But modern stress, diet, and lifestyle can tip the balance, especially with every passing day. Heart XL delivers high-potency omega-7 palmitoleic acid from sustainable pollock oil to elevate HDL and support a healthy metabolism.
Inflammation and low HDL put your heart at risk. Heart XL's omega-7 helps reduce C-reactive protein and support healthy HDL, keeping your heart strong.
Heart XL. Nourish your heart. Sustain your life.
When you say TNT's construction boss, then there's only one company, Lacroix Construction Services Limited, specializing in general construction, industrial maintenance, manpower resources, transportation and lifting, and equipment rental, excavators, bulldozers, dump trucks, lighting systems, and everything for your project. We have affordable prices. Call now 267-0000 or 431-0012. Lacroix Construction Services Limited, TNT's construction boss. And we are back. Thank you so much indeed, Master Control. Thank you. Joining us is a man who, of course, been with us before. Let me say a pleasant good evening to the Minister in the Ministry of Public Utilities, the Honorable Senator Clyde Elder. Good evening, sir.
Well, not Senator, Member of Parliament and Minister in the Ministry.
Member of Parliament and Minister in the Ministry. That's right. Member of Parliament for Labrie.
The Observer. Yes, for Labrie.
I do apologize. Thank you so much for correcting me with that. I
not
like
a problem
that.
at all.
Yeah. So, talking about Labrie, I mean, you've been on the ground. You brought Labrie home, victory. Yes. And I know that you've been hearing quite a lot. I mean, I know you've been weighing on a lot of the misinformation and propaganda that's coming from the opposition. Recently, of course, Marvin Gonzalez, the MP for, I believe, Aruca, weighed in on the boards, on the state boards, talking about the fact that the ethnicity seemed to be an issue. He's also the chairman of the PNM, making such a statement. What say you when you hear these comments?
Well, first of all, let me say thank you for having me on the program. And let me also add to the voices from my own government colleagues who have condemned those statements made by Marvin Gonzalez, because they're in fact racist statements. They were designed deliberately to speak to who he believes is his base and to incite racial tensions. But we condemn that strongly. We say that has no place in this plural society. And if you realize, Mikey, what would have happened in this last election going there? The country united with the National Congress in a way that no other political party has seen in a very, very long time. All creed, all race, all genders, all age groups united behind the United National Congress. And the PNF would have lost their way, admittedly so by their own leader, by the way. Their own opposition leader admitted that they lost their way. And they seem to be still lost. Marvin Gonzalez seems to be still lost in the woods because he's complaining about the ethnic composition of boards and saying that he's not sure if he's in Delhi or Bangladesh. But he's right in trying to beg up. But you see how they have managed and governed this country for the last 10 years. They believe that things must be according to them. They believe that things must be according to their order. And we condemn his statements. In fact, his statements have no place in the society. His statements are in fact untrue because when you look at the positions, the compositions of boards and of companies and of even the government, you will see that every facet of society is represented, even Parliament. So let's look at Parliament, for example. When you look at the government's bench in Parliament, you see different creed, different races, different age groups, and what have you. When you look at the opposition bench in Parliament, do you see that? So if he wants to compare and point fingers, then he should be pointing fingers at himself. But even if that is so, I want to say that this racial talk have no place in our society. This racial talk is not one that will take us forward. This government, under the Prime Minister Kamala Prasad-Bisesa, is one about inclusivity, about moving forward, and about ensuring that every creed and race have an equal place, and that all of us have an equal opportunity to be part and parcel of serving our country. And that's what it is.
Yeah, again, you've also spoken about the fact of the CPEP, and now we're looking at the corruption allegations coming out of URP,
Yes.
where millions of dollars and all of these things coming out of it. How do you deal with your constituents? And I know you to be a straight shooter, a straightforward individual. When you look at these things, how do you deal with your constituents, having to tell them this, hold on, because what we need to do is to clean up, purge this entire process, and get things where they need to be?
Well, let me say thank you to the constituents for being so understanding and for being so patient and having exercised that level of understanding, and that's the best word to use, with the government, because I think they have been vilified and they have been under the gun for so long, for the last 10 years. They didn't realize, they knew there was corruption, but they did not realize the extent of corruption within CPEP and URP. Take, for example, a contractor in CPEP taking the government to court in a big move that all of them come out and waylay themselves on the street and what have you. And I say all of them in terms of the opposition leader and others in her party. Only to realize that the contractor didn't even have proper registration to even have a business model as a contract in CPEP. So he had to withdraw and then bring a next with a next contractor. Mind you, all this antics and all this advocacy by the PNM on behalf of CPEP is not for the CPEP worker, All of that is for the contractor. Which contractor got $7 million in contracts already and want to get more millions in contract? And because we say enough is enough, corruption has to stop, we're going to stop it now, and whatever we have to do to defend this country, we'll do it. They want to jump on a horse and say, hey, look, the workers send home. But ask any one of them in the PNM, how much workers they defending? None. You know what they're defending? They're defending the contractors who make millions under them. That's what they're defending. So the people in my constituency, when they see what is happening and what they see what is going on and what has happened with CPEP, they understand that we need to clean it up. We need to have some kind of reform or repositioning or back to the mores that are supposed to be, or some kind of change in CPEP before we can bring it back out. And we have said, and we continue to maintain, that we will look after the vulnerable in society. We are going to do that. We have asked for patience. So far, the people have been patient. I want to thank them for their patience. I want to thank them for understanding. I want to thank them for working with us and for supporting us in this issue. it is going to be a little while again before we at least sort out everything inside of CPEP. But that we had to deal with the extent of the corruption in CPEP. They tried to vilify me when I said that this government did not go after the workers. We went after the contractors, but of course the contractors are workers and the workers became collateral damage. They vilified me. Oh, we are collateral damage, we are collateral, that's why we see us. You're former union leader, here's how we're behaving. Look how we're describing workers, but you see, that is not what I said. What I said was that we are going after the contractors who are corrupt. And unfortunately, in doing so, there will be fallouts. And that is what they take and they run with it. I heard Keith Scotland saying, when they asking him about, in a separate interview by the way, they asked him about the pension for prime ministers and the prime minister pension bill and what have you. And they asked him why they did not support that bill. Why did they abstain and not just say no? And in answering that question, he responded to say he does have sleepless nights based on the comments made by me about calling workers collateral damage. But he had plenty more sleepless nights to come because I intend to go after them and to go after them hard and to ensure I call them out on their nonsense. And if it is in doing that, they take one word or two words from what I say and have sleepless nights for that, then so be it, you're going to have many more sleepless nights. But I want to assure the workers of this country, I want to assure the workers of CPEP, I want to assure the workers in Europe, I want to assure the workers in your refrigerator program, once you're not corrupt, once you did not get there corruptly, once your hands are clean, once you have no cocoa in the sun to expect rain, then we will be taking care of the workers of this country. And we're coming after the corrupt people. And if by chance you are corrupt, then so be it, you're going to be dealt with too. But we are not coming after workers. We are here to protect workers. We are here to support workers. We are here on a workers' agenda. We believe in the workers' agenda. We have worked with unions. We have worked with the PSA. We have worked with the OWQ. We have worked with a couple of the unions to get into office. We are going to respect that workers' agenda. We're going to keep that workers' agenda. We're going to look after workers. And we're going to ensure that this government does what is best and what is right for the people and for the workers.
And Minister, when you look at what is taking place, do you agree when people say that there are those who are trying to exploit these workers for political mileage? I mean, you have been out there in the trenches for years with CWU as the front line with the unions and understand the entire labor process. When you hear a minister talking about he had to go and drop hampers and drop off things for workers, when in fact the workers are not the target here, but the ones who are really and truly taking advantage of the treasuries, the contractors. Did you ever think that you would witness something like this where people are just simply using workers for their own personal political agenda?
That is nothing new with the PNM, you see. You can expect worse than this from the PNM. I want to know, where were those hampers for the workers from TSCT when they were sent over by the last administration, which the same member of parliament on the opposition bench now is trying to posit as he so cares? Where were the hampers for the people from Caroni Green? Where were the hampers for the people from TDC? Where were the hampers for the people from GHRSL Limited? Where were the hampers for the people from the ArcelorMittal steel plant? Where were the hampers for the people who got dismissed from Petrotrin? Where were the hampers for the people who got dismissed from Trinma? And I could go on and on. So you can now, and I made the same point when I made my mini speech in Parliament. You can now because you're in opposition, so you care. But when you were in government and you were supposed to care for the workers, you were supposed to actually give them something, not a handout. Give them a job to see about themselves. You took away the job from them when they were looking after themselves and their family, and there was no need for hampers. So you come now to behave and to posit and to fool the people like if you care about them. You don't care about nobody. Brian Manning and his cohorts and all his minions, and they don't care about nobody. Because if you cared, you would not have done what you did to people, including me, when you were in government. You don't care about anybody. And I want to make a very important point here, Mickie. All of the nonsense that they're spewing and they're talking and they're pretending to care and all of that, and they begin to attack me, they've also begun to attack my wife. Because somebody went and leaked or suggested that my wife is appointed to the board of the Southwest Regional Health Authority. I want to say that so far my wife has not been appointed to any board, at least not so far. But even if my wife is appointed to a board, My wife is entitled like any other citizens once she qualifies to be on a board. So my wife is a registered nurse. She's a licensed midwife. She's a attorney at law, and she also has health and safety training.
Right.
So when you want to talk about my wife is well qualified to be on a board. No. My wife, for people who don't know, who talking and who want to say what they don't know, my wife was fired by the PNM. I could give it a whole story if you want, if you have time tonight. But my wife was fired by the PNM, victimized by the PNM, and left to die basically by the PNM. And when you hear the story that my wife went through, my wife was fired, not because she did anything wrong, because my wife had nothing to do with the baby that got burned in mouth up, absolutely nothing to do with that baby, but was fired as a scapegoat. And she only learned she was fired while watching TV with me. So where was the hamper for my family when my wife was fired, when we wanted something from that same PNM that's pretending to care now? Mind you, after my wife was fired, she got an interview at Swara, was accepted. After the interview, was told to come to work. And when she went to work, she was told, "Oh, sorry, we didn't realize that you were the nurse involved in the matter with the baby who got burnt. We can hire you." That's after she going to report for work. She get fired again under the same nasty, stinking, dirty PNM. So all the care that they want to pretend that they care about nobody except themselves. All they're doing is exploiting workers, exploiting the plight of workers. But you see, let me tell you something, Mickie K. Under this government, with Kamala Prasad-Bisesa, we have decided that we're going to pay the CPEP workers until the end of this month. They're going to get their salary until the end of this month. The workers that is not the contractors. And I am almost sure that by the time next month comes around, when they're clamoring for money to buy school books, because that's the cry now. Oh, they don't care about the people. The people have to buy books and what. I'm almost sure that apart from the book grant, the $1,000 book grant that parents are going to get for their children to return to school, because we have already approved that the workers of this country, as soon as we get rid of this PNM mentality and budget that we have working with, and even from as early as next month, we're going to start looking after the people of this country and giving them opportunities, giving them jobs, because you know why? Because they voted for hope, and we need to maintain that hope that the people have in us, and to ensure that we take care of them. We're going to do just that. So those who pretend to care want to give hampers now, they don't care. They're just using the workers as a means to get back into office. And they have 5 years to campaign, and they campaign for 5 years. We know that. But the workers will not buy that nonsense any longer, because see, they believe the workers are stupid. They believe the people are trying to become fools, and the workers are trying to become not fools. They are not stupid. They are seeing through it, and they will see through that too. So, Brian Malik, how much hampers you want to give out? No problem. I say to people, take your hamper, and when the time comes, still vote against them. Simple.
Comrade, we want to thank you so much for taking time out. The fire is in you. You are representing the people. Keep up the good work. Stay strong in Library, and of course, serve all that you can serve, and do your best as usual. Thank you so much, Comrade.
Thank you, Mickie K. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Hey, folks, I'm going to open the lines quickly, take some calls at 225-9790, 225-9790. And for those of you who, of course, on your fixed budget don't have the money, you can call via WhatsApp 494-0938, 494-0938. You heard Roxanne Paul, she started off the program. Yes, they have ruled in favor of the municipal officers, SRPs. You heard Attorney at Law Kyle Taklak Singh explain the entire SOE, how basically it's not a knee-jerk reaction. A lot of planning, a lot of assessment, a lot of vetting goes into it. You heard the former Energy Minister, Kevin Ramnarine, making it quite clear that we have a lot of work to do. We have to catch up. Could you imagine 650,000 barrels per day out of Guyana? 650,000, and he said in about a year or 2 years from now, it'll be 1 million and more per day. My gosh. And of course, you just heard from Minister in the Ministry of Public Utilities, the Honorable Clyde Elder, and giving you a little personal background, of course, how his wife was treated and how they're exploiting the workers here in Trinidad and Tobago when it comes with CPEP and other issues. So again, you can call via WhatsApp 494-0938, or you can make a direct call 225-9790. I tell you, boy, a lot is taking place, and yeah, the Observer is going to be right here with you. People are also sending me remedies. Yeah, I'm going to try these home remedies. Thank you so much, Kumar, for that remedy. Thank you so much, Farida, for that. Yeah, 2 cloves. Chew on that. All right, will do. Thank you so much. And thank you to all the people that we interviewed here this evening. To Roxanne Paul, Attorney at Law, Kyle Takla Singh, former Energy Minister Kevin Ramnarine, who is now an attorney as well. And you just heard from the Minister in the Ministry of Public Utilities, the Honorable Clyde Elder, a man who has been battling for years in the trenches, dealing with labor and workers on the rights of workers here in TNT. So the lines are open. If you want to make a quick call before we make our way out of here, 225-9790, 494-0938. We'll take your WhatsApp calls before we make our way out of here. And don't forget tomorrow's meeting. The UNC Monday night report has been postponed due to the state of emergency, the SOE. So we will, of course, give you more information as it develops. So for those of you who may not have known, the meeting tomorrow night, the Monday night report, has been postponed. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of our program. There are no calls this evening. I want to thank you all. And again, if you need to get the interviews, it's a lot easier to get now. It's simple. Just check out theobservertt.com. Just punch in theobservertt.com and it will take you straight to our website, and you get all the interviews even from last month and whatever time, so you will get that. All right, Kumar, I didn't, yeah, okay, sorry about that. Yes, sir, go right ahead. Kumar?
Good night, Mikey.
Good night, good night.
Good evening, sorry.
Good evening, yes.
Excellent program and excellent presenters.
Thank you.
We're off the air now, are we?
No, you're on still. You're my call. Go ahead before I get out of here.
Yeah, we have had the discussion about the CPEP. Now, CPEP, as the note I sent you earlier, CPEP, the original plan behind CPEP and URP was supposed to help poor and vulnerable unemployed people. And that program was designed so that you can give them employment so that they can have a stipend. And they were supposed to be enrolled in some programs so that they can get educated or get some kind of capacity to have some sustainable employment. So that was supposed to work in tandem with some of the programs, the government programs that they had, like the MILAT and so on, so that they can learn a trade, be a mechanic or be a welder, be a caregiver or be a seamstress or be a barber and so on, so that they can eventually get into some form of sustainable employment. Right. And that was the whole premise behind the CPEP and the URP program, to get people into sustainable jobs. So this needs to be restructured. What the UNC Coalition of Interest is doing here with their eradication of the corruption and so on that went on for the last 10 years and even before, was to try to fix this system into something that is workable, that can help these poor, vulnerable, unemployed people. Going on to the oil field and so on with, well, let me go to the SOE first of all. If we remember what happened at the coming to the end of 2024, there were a spate of extortions going on, and there was unabated crime and so on. That's why we got to that large historic figure of criminality, both invasions, extortions, and murders coming to the end of last year. The government at the time, which was the PNM government, they realized that was going out of whack. And on the 30th of December, our AG disappeared, and an AG was acting, which was Mr. Stuart Young, on the 30th of December. And our Prime Minister had prearranged a party which was advertised, an elite party was advertised in Tobago for that same weekend. In addition to that, the PNM had planned, it was billed as a cabinet retreat in Tobago for that next week, the first week in January. So on that night, fateful night, when the acting AG, and I will put in inverted commas, the acting Prime Minister, because the Prime Minister was in Tobago partying that night, and the Minister of National Security had some intelligence, they called it, which stated that the country was under some kind of threat from the criminals and the people in prison and so on. They called a state of emergency on the morning of the 31st, I believe it was. You could correct me if I'm right. Was it the 30th or the 31st? I think it was the 31st.
All right. Yeah.
But it was the acting AG and the absent Prime Minister, who was in Tobago partying, who called a state of emergency on that morning.
Right.
And they told us that day that exactly what was told to us by our present police commissioner now, our new police commissioner is telling us today. Now, between January and April, when that SOE expired, what did the PNM do to arrest that problem or to solve that problem that they identified on the 30th of December? They did absolutely nothing. That COE was put in place because they had a plan to have their anointment and their succession planning for the PNM, and they expected reprisals, which happened, but it did not get extreme because they had a SOE in place. We need to look at things for the face value that they are, and they did absolutely nothing to stem the problem of the criminality that was going on. Now we have a new government going in place, which is the UNC Coalition of Interest. They came into office, there was no SOE, and now, today, yesterday, the new Commissioner of Police identified the same problem that was identified back on the 30th, and now we have that they acting by, as Mr. Takla Singh rightly put it, and the other speakers you had rightly put it, they acted on that advice and recommendations of the new Commissioner of Police to have the SOE and now to act diligently to arrest the problem that was existing since last year, September. And that is what the SOE is about, and our population needs to understand that. This new government and this new Commissioner of Police is trying to fix the problems that were created over the last 10 years by the PNM and the administration. And if we remember way back in 2016, the Kamla Prasad Bissessa opposition had also advocated for an SOE to do exactly what we're doing here right now. So we shouldn't be clamoring and saying, well, it's hypocrisy and all this nonsense. She called for that way back in 2016. And that is, coming back now to Mr. Ramnarayan and excellent presentation by him. We in Trinidad and Tobago, from the oil field perspective, I am from the oil field and I can tell you, we have exploited, the PNM government was in charge from way back in 1956 all the way to 1986. 30 years consecutively, and the exploration that we have done was picking the low-hanging fruit, which is exploiting our top reserves. We have never drilled past 12,000 feet on land. Well, we didn't drill much doing exploration for the deeper wells. Now, as a drilling engineer, I can tell you what happens when you drill all the top layers is the zones that are below become more difficult because you have to drill through depleted zones that you have already depressurized. So the drilling becomes difficult and more complicated and expensive. We have not exploited our deeper reservoirs in Trinidad and Tobago, land operations. And it's the same thing that happened on our offshore. Now, this is a mistake that was made throughout the world. I've worked internationally. I can tell you that happened in Brazil, it happened in Colombia, it happened in Mexico, it happened in Venezuela, in Saudi. It was always easier to pick the low-hanging fruit and drill for the shallower wells. So get into the deeper reservoirs, as Mr. Ramnarayan told us, is difficult, and enhancing the oil in your depleted zones, you'll have to go into enhanced oil recovery, doing nitrogen injection, doing carbon dioxide injection, doing water flooding, and so on. Those methods have not been tried successfully in Trinidad and should be attempted in order to get the 60 to 70% of the oil that is still in the ground and we have not exploited. In addition to that, coming to Suriname and Guyana, they have gotten all their new discoveries in their deep water. We in Trinidad and Tobago never developed and explored our deep water. We need to go there.
And we're going to pay a price for that.
Correct.
Yeah,
correct.
we will pay a price for that. Thanks a lot, caller. Appreciate that. Thanks a lot. All right, thank you. Thanks. Well, that brings us to the end of the program, folks. Remember, stay safe. And as always, we're observing, but the action has already started. Thanks a lot. Until next Sunday, we are out of here.
The Observer. Mickie. The